All right, let's talk about something you probably think you have down pat, basic math. But we're going to look at it through the lens of JavaScript, where things can get a little weird and honestly pretty surprising. If you've ever stared at your screen wondering why a simple calculation went wrong, you are definitely in the right place. So here's what we're going to cover. We'll start with the absolute basics, the building blocks. Then we'll jump right into the first twist, coercion. We'll spend some quality time with a special case of the plus sign, then look at the operators that do behave predictably. After that, we'll get into the nuance of increment and decrement, and we'll wrap up with some really cool shortcuts to make your code more efficient.
Okay, before we can do any math, we gotta make sure we're all speaking the same language. Let's just quickly nail down 3 core terms that you're gonna see everywhere when you're working with math and code.
First up, operands. Super simple. These are just the things, the numbers or variables, that our math operators are going to work on. In 5 times 2, both the 5 and the 2 are our operands. Next, you've got a unary operator. Think unary like uno for 1. This is an operator that only needs a single operand. A perfect example is making a number negative. In negative a, that minus sign is a unary operator just changing the sign of a.
And finally, we have the binary operator, which is what you're probably most familiar with. Binary like bi for 2. This operator needs 2 operands to do its job, like in 10 minus a. And notice something cool here. That same minus sign we just saw, on the last slide, it was a unary operator. Here it's a binary operator. The context is everything.
All right, now that we've got the lingo down, let's dive into our first big twist, coercion. This is where JavaScript really starts to show its personality. It's basically JavaScript trying to be helpful by automatically changing data types for you in the background.
And here's the key thing. Most of the time, this is absolutely fantastic. When you use an operator like minus or multiply or divide, JavaScript will actually look at what you gave it, and if it's not a number, it'll try its very best to turn it into one before it does the math.
Check out this example. We're trying to subtract a string from a number. Now, in a lot of other languages, this would just crash your program. End of story. But not JavaScript. It sees that minus sign, it says, oh, you want to do math? Converts the string 7.3 into a number, and just gives you the right answer. Pretty neat. But, and this is a huge but, that super helpful conversion we just saw has one massive famous exception. And it just happens to be the operator we use all the time, the plus sign. This thing is leading a double life. So just think about it for a second. If the minus operator is smart enough to convert a string into a number for subtraction, you would totally expect the plus operator to do the same thing for addition, right? So let's look at this super simple line of code. We are attempting to add the number 4 and the string 7. What do you think is going to happen? The answer is the string 47. It's not the number 11. This right here is probably the #1 gotcha for new JavaScript developers. Instead of doing math, something completely different just happened. And here is the rule you have got to burn into your memory. The plus operator has a simple mission. If it sees even one string in the operation, it completely forgets about math. Its job instantly changes to string concatenation, which is just a fancy way of saying joining strings together. It'll turn the other value into a string and just mash them together. This also means the order of your operations is absolutely critical. JavaScript reads your code from left to right. So first it sees 3 plus 2. Hey, those are both numbers, so it does the math and gets 5. Then it moves on to the next part, 5 plus 20. And boom, now it sees a string, so it switches modes, and we get the final string, 52. Okay, I know that was a lot on the plus operator. So let's take a breath and get back to solid ground by looking at the other math operators that, well, actually behave like you think they would. Thankfully, the rest of the gang, multiplication, division, remainder, exponentiation, they all play by that helpful coercion rule. Take a look at the table. If you multiply the string 2 by the number 5, you correctly get 10. Same with division. These guys will always try to do the math, so you don't get any of those surprises you get with the plus sign. Let's move on to something a little more subtle. The increment and decrement operators, that's the double plus and double minus, are awesome shortcuts for adding or subtracting 1. But where you put them, before or after the variable, completely changes what your code does. The whole difference boils down to timing. When you put the plus plus after a variable, that's called postfix. It means give me the variable's original value first and then increase it. Putting it before the variable is prefix.
That means increase the value first and then give me that new updated result. So let's break down postfix with an example. If we have a equals C++, JavaScript first looks at C and sees its value is 10. It assigns that original value to a, so a is now 10. After that whole operation is finished, it goes back and increments C to 11. It's a use, then change process. Now, let's flip it for prefix. With b equals plus plus d, the order is reversed. JavaScript first increments d from 10 to 11. Then it takes that new, shiny value of 11 and assigns it to b. So in this case, both b and d end up as 11. It's a change, then use method. A really subtle but super important difference. All right, let's wrap this up with a final set of operators. These don't really change the math, but they totally change how your code looks, making it way cleaner, shorter, and just easier to read for you and anyone else on your team.
So often in coding, you need to modify a variable using its own value. You can totally write it out the long way. Variable equals variable plus 5. And that works. But it feels a little repetitive, right? The pro way to do it is with a compound assignment operator, like plus equals. It does the exact same thing, just with way less typing. And this same pattern works across the board for all the main operations. You've got plus equals to add, minus equals to subtract, multiply equals to multiply, and divide equals to divide. Using these shortcuts is a really easy way to make your code more concise and readable.
So, what's the big takeaway from all of this? Well, math in JavaScript is mostly what you'd expect, but mastering its little quirks, especially that split personality of the plus operator, is what really levels you up as a developer. Understanding these rules isn't just about avoiding bugs. It's about understanding how the language truly thinks,